Namaskar. Welcome everyone to the session today. President sir, could you please check with the speaker sir also if he is having any difficulty in joining the meeting?
Yeah. Just a minute.
বাকি সকলোকে আজিৰ সেশনলৈ স্বাগতম জনাইছো। কোভিড পৰিস্থিতিটো লাহে লাহে পেণ্ডেমিকৰ পৰা এণ্ডেমিকলৈ গতি কৰিছে, গতিকে মানুহবোৰে ভ্যাকচিন দুইটা সতে লৈ হৈছেগে। গতিকে লাগিছে যেন দুৰ্গা পূজা দিৱালীৰ সময়লৈ পৰিস্থিতি বহুখিনি ভাললৈ আহিব। আমি মুকলিমুৰীয়াকে ঘূৰি ফুৰি থাকিব পৰা হ'ম চাগে গোটেই সমস্ত ভাৰততে হওক বা বিশ্বতে হওক। কিন্তু মানুহৰ মনত বহুতখিনি প্ৰশ্ন এতিয়াও আছে, কি হ'বগে আগলৈ সেই বুলি আমি আজিৰ সেশনটো অৰ্গানাইজ কৰিছো। আমাৰ ভাগ্য ভাল, আমাৰ ICMR খুবেই এক্টিভ এগৰাকী সিনিয়ৰ সাইন্টিষ্ট আমাৰ মাজত আজি আছে। বাকি আপোনালোকে সেশনৰ মানে প্ৰগ্ৰেছ হৈ থাকোতো আৰু যদি কিবা কোৱেশ্চন থাকে কমেন্ট বক্সতো দিব পাৰিব, আমি তাৰ পৰা কোৱেশ্চন লৈ স্পিকাৰ সৰক সুধি থাকিম। আমাৰ স্পিকাৰ ডক্টৰ বৰকাকতি ছাৰো জয়েন কৰিছে।
অডিঅ'টো আহিছে না? গুড ইভিনিং এভৰিৱান।
গুড ইভিনিং স্যার, নমস্কাৰ। নমস্কাৰ
নমস্কাৰ বিশ্বনাথ, ভাল লাগিছে দেখি।
বৰ ভাল লাগিল, আৰু আপুনি যে আমাৰ কাৰণে এই সময়কণ উলিয়াব পাৰিলে সেই কাৰণে আমাৰ বৰ মানে ভাল লাগিছে।
ধন্যবাদ। আমাৰ অসমী পুনেৰ মই খবৰ পাই থাকো, মোৰ ফ্ৰেণ্ডো আছে, তেখেতেও কয় কালচাৰেল এসেন্স, ব্লাড ডোনেশ্যন, বাকি অন্য ইতি আপোনালোকে কৰি আছে বুলি গম পাওঁ। এইটো এটা ভাল ইনিচিয়েটিভ হয়, আৰু বিটুইন দ্য নৰ্থ ইষ্ট আৰু বেলেগ আমাৰ নৰ্থ ইষ্টৰ বাহিৰত থকা অসমীয়া কালচাৰটো ভালকে হেৰি কৰি ৰাখিবলৈ আপোনালোকৰ যত্ন সেইটো বহুত আৰু ভালকে হওক এই গোটেই হেৰিটো।
হয় স্যার। Just to introduce Dr. Borkakoti sir formally to you. Dr. Biswajyoti Borkakoti has completed his MBBS from Assam Medical College in 1996 and MD in Medical Microbiology from the same institute. He has worked in various clinical departments, including pediatrics, pathology, etc., in various capacities, and has shifted to Regional Medical Research Center, ICMR, Northeast Region, Dibrugarh, Assam, as a full-time researcher in biomedical sciences. He has over 16 years of experience in working in areas of infectious diseases. Dr. Borkakoti has authored and co-authored over 60 peer-reviewed scientific papers in national and international journals, including research papers on SARS, CoV-2, COVID-19, and also presented works at many national and international conferences. Dr. Borkakoti is actively associated with different societies and academics. Dr. Borkakoti's career is decorated with several reputed awards and funding. For his research work in HIV and drug abuse, he received Young Investigator Award from the International AIDS Society in 2007 in Sydney, Australia. Dr. Borkakoti annually organizes workshops on bioinformatics, research methodology, hands-on molecular techniques, etc. Currently, he is holding the post of Scientist E at ICMR RMRC, that is Regional Medical Center, Dibrugarh, Assam, and is also in charge of the Regional Viral Research and Diagnostic Laboratory at ICMR Dibrugarh. His areas of interest are microbiology, bioinformatics, and tumor biology. So I would like to formally invite Dr. Somiran Fukan, President Ahomi, to formally welcome our speaker today, Dr. Biswajyoti Borkakoti sir, to Ahomi and to the session today, and also request Dr. Fukan sir to moderate the session today. Over to you, Mr. President.
Good evening, namaskar. Actually, it's really a pleasure to welcome Dr. Biswajyoti Borkakoti on our Ahomi platform. Yeah, actually, last 1.5 months, it was going in our mind that okay, can be, because more specifically for the second wave of pandemic, there was a lot of chaos and confusion, more of confusion. First wave, it was more of scared. Second wave, it is more of confusion. and there are a lot of queries, and in our own group and with our peers, there are a lot of questions and counter questions, and a lot of experts and so-called experts giving their views on and off in the social media and in whatever other platform they have. So we thought that, okay, let us organize something with some expert who can at least deliver it to us or enlighten us with some of the real facts and figures. So in that case, it was a pleasure that we got a very right person. Generally, we get either scientists or we hear doctors, but to get a medico turned scientist is really a pleasure for us. And this is where we actually see, we get to know the both side of the coin. So it is really a pleasure for this evening to welcome Dr. Borkakoti here to our platform. And just to give a background, Ahomi as such, we have been trying to on and off in various periods last many years, trying to have some building up a society, a common Assamese platform in Pune in various sections. And this is another dimension using adding to us to our say bandwidth of operation, thanks to online meeting that we can get experts like him and then get it connected to our folks. It is really heartening to see that a person who has worked in HIV and in virology, in the field of virology, is talking to us today in a field where actually it is the virus which matters. There are a lot of people who have been talking a lot of stuff, but let us hope that today, after the end of the day, when we go back and switch off our thing, we will get more enlightened and more satisfied, and then communicate to our peers that, okay, this is the real fact, and we have heard from horse's mouth that this is what it is. So I would like to welcome formally to our platform, and I also would like to welcome people who have joined here from various parts of Pune, Maharashtra, and also from Assam, and looking forward to have a fruitful discussion and interactive session. We have got a lot of questions, almost 12-13 questions have already been posted. I will just, after Dr. Speakers concludes his presentation, we'll just have an interactive session. I'll run through those basic queries, and after that, if still people have any queries, we'll be opening the floor for discussion. With this, I hope that we'll have an enlightening session. Welcome and thank you. So over to you, Borkakoti.
Sir, তেনেহলে আজি আমাৰ formally welcome our episode next আছে agenda Dr. Borkakoti sir, আপুনি অলপ যদি COVID-19 ৰ বিষয়ে অলপ 15-20 মিনিট আমাৰ আজিৰ অডিয়েন্স খিনিক কিবা এটা ক'ব বিচাৰিছে, please go ahead. And in between, we'll also have questions for you.
ধন্যবাদ নিমন্ত্রণ বাবে অতি কৃতজ্ঞ আৰু good evening to you all. Good evening to Dr. Samiran Fukan and Rajiv Borkakoti and Ahomi Pune, the cultural essence of this outside India, that Assamese society that we have in Pune. So I have heard that they have done a very good job of bridging the society of Assam and the other parts of India, especially with cultural events and blood donations. And I think I thank them all. I mean, their effort, especially Dr. Samiran Fukan and Rajiv Borkakoti and others. So, I mean to say, am I crystal clear? Am I crystal clear?
Absolutely, sir.
Is my audio audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely audible.
Okay, so without losing any time, we'll go straight into the discussion of today's topic. Actually, what we have, the pandemic for the last 1.5 years. So I will go for a small presentation, maybe of 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll just arouse a little bit of questions from our audience. And what are the questions we have to look forward for COVID-19? Is a third wave coming? Is a third booster required? All those questions will come up. So I think so. I'll just go for the presentation directly. So from pandemic to endemic, COVID-19, what is next? So we know we do have a lot of experts because of the social media, the YouTube, the news channels. So everyone is now a COVID expert, sort of a COVID expert. So there are a lot of assumptions, conjectures, but what we have to look forward is based on evidence-based data, not on assumptions or conjecture. So the confusions need not grow larger, but we have to depend on evidence-based data. So what is that evidence-based data? So as a ICMR fellow or from ICMR, I cannot say directly, but I'll not say because there are some government policies also what you have to say or what you don't have to say. So in this forum, I'm not going to be a ICM or scientist like that. I'll have a plain discussion on what is happening, how the pandemic originated, or how the waves, first wave, second wave, third wave, and what is next actually. So we will try to analyze these facts based on evidence rather than on assumptions and conjectures. So the questions that arises, first question is SARS-CoV or COVID-19, is it a natural or lab originated? That is one of the important things that has been going on in the media and even in US Senate also. There has been a lot of questioning of one of the men that is behind the NIH funding in US, Anthony Fauci. Most probably everybody has heard about Dr. Anthony Fauci. So we will discuss a little bit about this origin, about the natural or the lab origin. And next, does the vaccine protect against infection or only protect against severe infection and deaths? So we know the vaccine, how the vaccine has been prepared, or there has been a lot of discussion across forums. What is the efficacy of the vaccine currently? All those are there. So we will discuss a little bit about that also. Then another important question is that, will there be a third wave or COVID-19 in India? So because the waves are coming, third wave in other countries we have already seen. So how is it that the third wave will come in India or not? So we will discuss it within the next 10 minutes. So before going to any further, we wanted to know if the virus is a deliberate or natural. So for this, what we need to know the virus structure. Everybody has heard about the spike protein, the S gene or the spike protein. This is a coronavirus genome. I will not go into the detail of the genomics, but it is one of the, it is RNA virus. It is the largest RNA virus of human infecting humans. So it has got a lot of genes, 16 actually, those I will not go into detail. So the spike protein is important because it is the protein that binds to the host receptor. So now, what is the thing? Is it natural or is it man-made? First of all, the hypothesis is that WHO formed a committee and they went to the lab, the Wuhan lab, from where it was first outbreak, or from the Wuhan it started. And after doing some preliminary investigation, they said that that's where the probable reservoir, and most probably the likely intermediate host is an animal that is called ferret badger. It's sort of a mink, and in Assam also some varieties of this animal is available. অসমীয়াত আমি জহামাল বুলি কওঁ তাকে, সেই একে ধৰণৰ হেৰিটো। তো সেইটো বিধৰ এনিমেল এটা, জহামালৰ যোনটো মিংক বুলি কওঁ, সেই একে ধৰণৰ এনিমেল ferret badger. So tahate juntu, how they have come to the conclusion that there may be the bat probable because bat was the nearest, bat coronavirus was the nearest coronavirus that was with the SARS-CoV-2. So they thought maybe possible direct possible transmission or through intermediate host. But direct transmission is not possible because bat coronavirus does not infect human. So that is one. Then again later on, interhuman transmission occurred. During December, January, a lot of cases, more than 49 cases were detected of pneumonia in Wuhan. So what we are seeing is that this Wuhan Institute of Virology, that what we are seeing out here, is a P4 lab, that is called level 4, the highest level of laboratory in the world that we have. Only few labs in the world do have. Hardly 10 to 15 labs in the world have the P4 level facility. Here, what was happening is that they were making coronavirus, chimeric coronavirus since 2014. So what is it a coincidence that when they are making chimeric coronavirus that can infect human from bat to human in that city, in that lab, and the outbreak started from that city? So there were definitely some questions will come up in the minds of the people if this virus has been leaked from lab, or if it is leaked, was it deliberate or was it accidental? So that question remains. So what was the genetic information, or what are the data that we need to know, evidence-based data? So these sequences of SARS-CoV came to database, public database in January 2015, or not January 2020, I mean to say 15 January 2000, and we started analyzing, even our lab started analyzing this data. And also we also found, and other labs also found, that there was an insertion, a four amino acid insertion in the spike protein that are not found in the nearest bat coronavirus that is related, that this red C13 strain is the most nearest strain of the SARS-CoV-2, and that didn't have this insertion. And the other pangolin coronavirus or human SARS-CoV-2 or bat SARS-CoV-2 related, those are around 90% similar, did not have this insertion of 4 amino acid. So there, this site is very important. This is called a furin cleavage site, and this site is essential for the virus to get entry into the cell for infection. So there was a lot of research, but some researcher says that this PRRA domain, what we call, is present in other coronavirus also, but distantly related coronavirus. As a whole, they dismiss this finding that other coronavirus also have this PRRA domain, but most closely related doesn't have. But one thing is that when you talk about evolution, the nearest one should have the nearest, I mean to say, common sequences. The nearest common, they should have the nearest domain, not a far off your sequence will have a similar sequence. So this still remains a big question. If this is a lab made, this sequence was lab made, this part. So what is, I mean to say, WHO saying about it? WHO is saying this laboratory origin is extremely unlikely. Wall Street Journal is saying might be a lab leak. Why WHO is saying that it is extremely unlikely? Because till now 45 million people have died. CDC, NIH has granted funding to Wuhan, and if it is proved by any chance that it was an accidental leak, because Wuhan lab was funded by NIH funding, National Institute of Health from US. And if it is proved, then the blame will go to US NIH that the death of 45 million people, not 45 million, 45 lakhs people in the world, that is 4.5 million people in the world, will directly be implicated to NIH and the Wuhan lab. And why, I mean to say, WHO is saying that WHO, the committee formed, it has Dr. Peter Daszak, one of the member of the committee who was working in with NIH funded grant with the Wuhan laboratory. So there is a direct conflict of interest with the members that have gone into the investigation of this. lab origin. So what we want to say is that this question mark still remains. And what is the percentage that it is a lab origin? Still it is 50-50. Means the origin may still be a lab origin, or it may be a natural evolution from the bat coronavirus. But nobody is going to get into the depths because powerful people are there behind. So I'll not go into the discussion about that. So what is the worldwide COVID-19 deaths till now? Total number of cases are 21.9 crores till today, and 45.5 lakhs death has occurred till yesterday, that is September 11, 2021. So the United States, #1 death, and the highest number of cases, 4.1 crore case and 6.6 lakhs death, followed by India, 3.32 crores cases and 4.43 lakhs. So you can see from this that the case fatality is around hovering between 1 to 2%. That means the case fatality, that is the number of cases detected, and the number of deaths occurring is that 1 to 2%. In India, it is around 1.4%. So what are you seeing out here is the most populous country in the world, China, is nowhere to be seen among the top number of cases. They are still in the 1,000, not even cross 5,000. Has around 5,900 deaths. So how the most populous country in the world has been able to do control, or means were they aware of this pathogenicity, or they were aware? So one thing I would like to say out here is that from Wuhan, international flights were blocked to rest of Chinese city immediately in the month of January, whereas national flights were blocked, and international flights to US, Italy, India, and other countries were continuing in January, February, March. Till late March also, international flights from Wuhan were continuing. So rest of the world got the virus. The Chinese people were not allowing any flights from Wuhan. So that is a question, big question mark, why they had not allowed WHO, because WHO allowed international flights to continue. They said they no international flights should continue. So I'm quoting one paper out here. A SARS-like cluster of circulating bat coronavirus shows potential for human emergence. This was written in 2015 by a group of scientists from US and from Wuhan lab, and from few scientists from Switzerland. And what they had done is that they have developed a chimeric coronavirus. That means they have made a gain of function research where a bat coronavirus was recombined to a SARS-CoV mouse adapted SARS-CoV spike protein, and they were able to infect human airway cell line and cause pathogenicity in animals like mice, rats, and all. So this is a clear picture where gain of research function was done by the Wuhan lab. So we cannot say it directly in national conferences. I'm saying it out here because it is a formal, I mean, it is a gathering. I'm not talking in behalf of ICMR or any. I'm talking about evidence-based data. What is called the evidence-based data that we have. So they have made this strain called HSC014 MA15. So this strain is a chimeric coronavirus that can infect, and they made it in 2014, and NIH was funding this research, and they later on blocked this funding in 2016 after publication of this paper, because a lot of complaint came because you are making a potential virus for outbreak. If this gets leaked from the lab, that will cause a big outbreak or pandemics like situation. That was potential for human emergence, they have said like that in this paper from 2015. So what I'm trying to say is that this sequence is not available in public database for investigators to investigate if this strain is similar to the SARS-CoV-2 So China is denying, and they are not allowing this strain or analysis of this by the public scientists from the world. So why we have to hide this sequence? Why was it necessary to hide? So this is a big question mark. So coming to some of the pictures, what we know about epidemic, pandemic, and endemic. Pandemic, now we are having a pandemic. We had a cholera pandemic. The seventh cholera pandemic was going on for many years. We had a pandemic of influenza that is called the Spanish flu in 1918, where 50 to 100 million people died. That was the influenza outbreak. That was the influenza pandemic. Now we are having the pandemic, that is your COVID pandemic or the coronavirus pandemic. So what is this difference? Epidemic, pandemic, and endemic. What we say is epidemic when a small portion, a country or a small geographical region has got an outbreak, not outside these borders of geographical region, it is called epidemic. I mean, describing it in brief, not going into details. What is a pandemic? When it involves the all continents, many continents, and having at the same time, the outbreak is having at the same time, and millions or thousands of people are infected across continents. This is the pandemic situation. And what is endemic? Endemic is then show out some geographical regions you have this disease, like Japanese encephalitis is endemic in Dibrugarh, Assam, that we call every year we have some cases of Japanese encephalitis. Or dengue is endemic in some region of India, or scrub typhus in Arunachal Pradesh. That is called, these are endemic regions. It is not that this has just blown up or come up suddenly. They are there for years and years. So this situation is called endemic situation. So what is happening is now that is COVID-19 going to become endemic? That is one question. The chief scientists of ICM or not ICMR, that WHO, Dr. Swami Swaminathan has said that India has entered into the phase of endemic. So this endemic phase means from pandemic to endemic is that a background number of cases will be there. So we have coronavirus, not only this coronavirus, there are 4 circulating coronavirus already in human. What we call pani lagise boli ami kau je common cold. A common cold virus gita ami coronavirus, these are endemic everywhere in the world. This human coronavirus, these are called ACE-CoV OC43, NL63, 2290, SKU1, some of the name of this coronavirus. These causes common cold. So 90 to 100% people has got antibody against common cold coronavirus. So these common cold coronavirus are endemic throughout the world. So will we have this coronavirus COVID-19 also becoming endemic? Maybe we are going to have COVID-19 as endemic if because it has established itself. Last 1.5 years, it has established itself, and it is an RNA virus, and there is going to be some mutations going on. So coming to the situation in India, you can see the test positivity rate. This is the average test positivity rate. You can see Kerala is leading, 13% test positivity rate. In fact, now it is more than 16% in the wave that is going on from the August to September. 16 to 18% test positivity rate, quite high rate in Kerala. Then Maharashtra follows, 11. Assam has got less than 0.7% now. It is 2.6 actually the average from beginning. So 2.67% test positivity rate. Then other states like UP, Bihar has got far less test positivity rate. It is not that UP has done less tests. They have done 7.3 crore tests. Assam has done 2.2 crore tests. Kerala has done 3.2 crores. Maharashtra has done 5.5 crore tests. It is not that UP has done less tests, so they are not detecting cases. It is not there. So what are we seeing? Why sudden upsurge in cases in Kerala? What is the reason behind? Population, if you see 35 million, 34 million, similar with Assam. Both those states, Kerala and Assam, population similar population. Total positive, if you see 43 lakhs in Kerala, whereas total positive in Assam is 5.94. Why it is different? The total death is 5,700 in Assam, whereas the total death in Kerala is 22,000. The most literate state in the country, Kerala, is not able to control COVID-19 as it was expected. So Assam has done far better than Kerala in controlling COVID-19. So what was that defect? We have to analyze. We have to analyze what was lacking in. Is the virus strain change in Kerala? No, it is the same Delta virus that is causing the second wave in all over India. Is the sublineage change? AY12 was the sublineage in Assam, most of the cases. The sublineage in Kerala, we do not know because they have not given us the strain in the public database. They have not submitted these strains. So for investigation, why Kerala is having so much cases? This is we wanted to know actually what are the reasons. Is it due to lot of lockdown people were, or is it due to strict COVID protocol, and suddenly when it is open up, the cases come up? I'll talk to you. I'll just give a brief about that later on. I'll just give a brief on that also later on. Yeah, so this is one question that we need to answer. So the important question is that, will there be another wave, the third wave? Every scientist in India, most of the prominent scientists in India is saying that it is imminent. The third wave is imminent. But I'm sorry to say they couldn't predict the second wave. But they're saying that third wave is imminent. Everyone is saying the third wave is imminent. Why? They have made some models. They have played with 200 and different factors, and they said by August and we are going to enter into the third wave. By 2020 February, one prediction is that we will go into the third wave. Why? The virus is mutating, and if the virus R0 value, that is reproduction number, increases to 4.5, we are going to have a third wave. Why it is based on the reproduction number? That means one infection will lead to 4.5 infection. A single person will be able to infect average. I'm talking about average. So there will be geometric multiplication. So this is linked to herd immunity. What is herd immunity? It is the immunity level of the community or society, out of which if 50%, 60%, 70% are immune, that pandemic will be over. That we are hearing it from January, February 2020. When will herd immunity come? When will herd immunity come? So herd immunity level has been shifted. It was first that if 50% of the population of India are infected, we will achieve herd immunity. Then again, it shifted to 60%. Then again, it shifted to 70%. Now it's shifted to 84%. So herd immunity, why is it shifting? We are shifting goalposts. Why shifting the goalposts? The shifting of goalposts is because of the virus. The virus transmissibility has increased. What was there in 2020 or 2019, the transmissibility of virus has increased more than 2 times or 3 times. The 2019 strain or the 20 strain was not very efficient. The R0 value was 1.5 to 2. The R0 value increases above 2 in the Delta virus. The Delta virus is around 120% more transmissible than the Alpha variant. And the Alpha variant is 60% more transmissible than the Clade Z that was identified in 2020, April, May, June, during that time. So even this Clade Z was more transmissible than the 2019 strain. So slowly the virus is getting more transmissible to the human by natural mutation. That is, over time, it is evolving. So what is happening to the virus? It's a natural rate that at around 10 to the power -4 or -5, at this rate per 100 base pair, it will mutate. That means average of 4 or 5 mutations per month will occur in the virus. And within 1 year, around 40 to 50 mutation will be there. And the clade will be changed. Alpha, delta, gamma, or something will come up. And wherever the transmissibility increase, that that strain will dominate. That strain will dominate in the community. And again, we will have a new wave. So that was the expectation that over time it will change, and then again we will have. But I'm saying, but is it imminent? I will say it is not imminent. Why? The Sero survey report of ICMR in June 2020 showed that 67% of Indian population are immune. That means they are seropositive. This reflects 89 crore population of India. That means already 89 crore population are having immunity to the SARS-CoV-2. So we should not be having, the pandemic should have come down. Yes, it did. The highest number of cases was detected on 6th of May 2021. 4 lakh cases, approximately 4,14,000 cases were detected. And in June 2021, 21st June, the cases dropped to 42,000. There was a decrease in 970% decrease. Why? Here I will go that out of 1.4 billion, 3 crore 32 lakhs cases has been confirmed till now. But I have said 89 crores. Can you make up? The laboratory is saying, laboratory data is saying 3.3 crores, whereas I am saying that 89 crore people are already infected in India. Not I am saying, this is data is saying. The data from ICMR is saying that 89 crore people are already infected. That means what is happening? What is happening is that there are silent cases. What is the silent cases? One case will followed by 25 to 30 silent cases. One case will be followed by 25 to 30 silent cases. And here I will point to one thing, that Kerala had one case followed by 5 silent cases, whereas UP had one case followed by 80 silent cases. So what is happening? UP population, lot of silent cases were there in UP, whereas in Kerala, silent cases were not there. Why? Strict lockdown and strict COVID norms, very, very strict COVID norms. Now, strict COVID norms has been followed in Mizoram, Manipur. They are also having high positivity rate of 11 to 12% at present. So is strict COVID norm essential? The government has to decide, not us scientists. Not us scientists. Sweden did not have a single lockdown, didn't have compulsory or mandatory masking of people. I'll come to the marks later on. They didn't have. But they are not on the top of the list of infection rate, not number 1. They are on the list of 16 number in the European countries of infection rate. UK, France, they were the highest. Those countries that put lockdown the highest, they got the highest infection rate. Africa, with 1.2 billion, more than 3 times the population of USA, had 1.7 lakh death, whereas US had 6.6 lakhs death. 12 times more death in USA with all the sophisticated hospital in the world. Why the death is more in US? Why not in Africa? These are the questions we need to ask. We need to ask what is happening with COVID-19. The Indian scenario, what we are getting is that lot of prediction has been done. One prediction said that by 5th September 2021, we'll have 6,22,000 cases. This spike. Today is 12th September. Okay, we didn't have this spike. The cases today is around 31,000 cases in India. So this prediction was wrong. This prediction was wrong. Lot of prediction was wrong. So it is not that third wave is imminent or it will involve only the pediatric population. How only the pediatric population will be involved? You think the pediatric population is at home and they are safe? It is not like that. When people get infected, they also transmit it to their children. Many studies have shown that more than 50%, even in Mumbai and other Chennai, that's data shows that more than 50 to 60% of children below the 18 years are having antibodies to COVID-19. So it is not that the third wave will only occur among children. It is not that. Third wave will only occur if the virus reproduction number goes above 4.5. The R0 value, if it goes above 4.5, third wave will occur. That means I'll just explain it in simple terms. Measles of ki hoy. Measles is a highly infectious or highly contagious infectious disease. That amar ki dekha jay tar R0 value is 15. R0 value is 15. So herd immunity has to be 93%. That means community amar 93% manu immune hobo lagibo tetia hai ami stop koribo parim outbreak by epidemic jodi hoy. Measles or jodi outbreak hoy but community 93% or immunity thakibo lagibo tetia hai outbreak to stop hobo. Because the R0 value of measles is 15. So as the R0 value of COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 has to increase from present 2 or 2.5 to 4.5, then we are going to have a third wave. And for that, transmissibility has to increase drastically. Transmissibility has to increase drastically. So that is the reason that if we are going to have a third wave, will it be devastating? More deaths? I think so, no. Cases may be there, but severity will be less because already we are having a lot of immunity. Already there is a background immunity, so there will be mild disease more rather than severe disease if there a third wave comes. But most probably third wave will not come in India. It may come in other countries where Delta virus has not entered. Where the Delta has not entered, they may have a third wave. But India has been swept. The second wave was due to complete Delta wave. So India has gone that phase. Second wave, the devastating second wave was 4 times larger than the first wave. So India has crossed that barrier. So only if the virus changes dramatically, then we are going. By now, maybe over 70% of India's population, because that study by ICMR was done in late June 2021. Now it is September, then we are expecting 70 to 75% people, and even vaccination is going on. More than 12% people in India are now completely vaccinated. Completely, all doses are given. So we are expecting up to 70 to 75% people in India are now sort of immune either to the disease or to infection. So what I am going to discuss is that what was the cause of reduction? Was it due to vaccination or natural immunity? 6th of May, 4,14,000 cases, the highest cases in the world. Suddenly the cases dropped to 42,000 within 1.5 months. 970% reduction in India. Full dose vaccination was mere 3.6% of the population. So it cannot be the vaccine. It cannot be the vaccine. So what will it be? Most probably it is the natural immunity. Those who were infected, they are immune. That means, what is a vaccine? Vaccine is not a miracle drug. Vaccine is only a component of the natural virus. It tries to mimic the virus, but it is not 100% efficient to mimic the virus. It tries to, the same protein, the spike protein is made and is injected into the human population to arouse antibodies and T-cell immunity. In immunity, we have two lines, that is, one is called the humoral, another is called the cell-mediated. Humoral produces the antibody that neutralizes the virus. T-cell immunity will attack the cells that are infected with the virus. So the natural immunity is the base immunity that you can get, not the vaccine. But We cannot allow all the population to get natural immunity. In that case, a lot of people will die. In the course of getting natural immunity, a lot of people will die of COVID. So what is that? So that is why we need the vaccine. That is why we need the vaccine, so that people do not get natural immunity. The immunity they should get from the vaccine. So COVID-19 appropriate behavior prevention is better than cure. So we have been hearing about this on and on for last 1.5 years. When we open the mobile, we hear this tune about COVID behavior on and on. But one thing I wanted to just emphasize on this is that ventilation, that is number one case, indoor ventilation. Some advertisement I have seen by prominent personality, celebrities saying that you should close the windows. That is absolutely wrong. That is absolutely wrong. You should have cross ventilation in your home. You should have cross ventilation and exhaust fan in your home, so that air change, at least 6 air change occurs per hour. 6 air change means the volume of the air in your single room should be exchanged 6 times per hour. That is the optimum change of air that is needed in a well ventilated room. So any closed door meeting is not appropriate. Those meetings that are held closed door with the AC on only, all windows and doors closed, is a place where COVID might spread. COVID does not spread in open spaces, open fields, open areas. It will not spread. It will spread in homes. It will spread in areas where people are together in closed rooms. Coming about the masks, how far is the mask being able to prevent infection? In fact, CDC and WHO said that initially in March 2020, they said masks should be worn by the only symptomatic COVID cases and only those having respiratory symptoms. And the medical healthcare workers should only wear the mask, not all population, because if somebody is covered with mask, they will not spread the virus. The mask is not that for preventing your infection. If you are wearing a mask, you will not be prevented from infection. But if you wear a mask, you will prevent others from getting the infection. That is the reason why everyone was asked to wear the mask, so that if everyone wears the mask, the virus will not spread into the atmosphere. But what was happening with 90% of India's population wearing the mask, we had 60 or 70% people infected with COVID-19. Where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? Wearing of masks, people has to know how many hours you have to wear the mask, how to change the mask. Absolute no, you cannot touch the front of the mask. Never, your hands becomes contaminated. Every minute you are inhaling 7 to 8 liters of air, and you are filtering those air. The virus is very small. It will pass through. If the virus has to pass through, it will pass through your mask. But the virus doesn't come alone. It piggyback on bigger particle like dust particle or protein particle, and it will get trapped. It might get trapped into your mask. The front of your mask will be highly contaminated during the pandemic because you are inhaling 7 to 8 liters of air per minute. And when you lower the mask to drink it, your hands get contaminated. You are aerosolizing, and this will act as fomite. If you bring your mask to your home, that will act as a source of infection at your home. So there are a lot of things. Even normally, what happens is that if you are not wearing the mask, the virus goes inside. It remains as a bystander. Not all the time you get the infection if you are with the COVID positive. We have dozens and dozens of cases where the husband is positive, the wife is negative, even not sharing the same bedroom. they are not getting positive. It is not that you will get infection 100%. It is not that. You will inhale the virus, they will attach, then they will, in the next breath, they may get out. They will get out. This binding, receptor binding, ACE2 receptor binding, because before that, lot of things are there. Lot of things are there. There is the cilia, the secretion, the mucus, all those barriers has to be crossed by the virus. All those barriers has to be crossed by the virus to infect. So what is happening is that if you are not wearing the mask properly, the mask will act as a fomite to transmit. What we are seeing out here is that people that are not properly using the masks, they are wearing double masks, N95 plus surgical masks, and even with 2 vaccines, they are getting infection, COVID-19 infection, they are getting it. I'm not saying, but evidence-based medicine, how we have to see 70%, 80% of country's population getting infected with a mask on. So we have to see where we went wrong. How we are wearing the masks properly or not, that was the question. We were not wearing the masks properly. And the mask is acting as a fomite to transmit. Mask was acting as a fomite. If you see a person, a policeman wearing the mask out here, or somebody taking the mask and putting it in his pocket, so that is not the correct way. So in fact, he's not doing good. In fact, he is doing the opposite. He is contributing to transmission of the virus. Coming to the vaccine. Okay, so what vaccine do we have? We have the Covishield, the Covaxin. What is the Covishield? The Covishield is by the AstraZeneca, developed by the AstraZeneca company, Oxford AstraZeneca, and manufactured by the Serum Institute of Pune. What is this virus? It is a vector-based vaccine. I mean, what is this vaccine? It is a vector-based. That means a adenovirus vector has been used to prepare this vaccine. The whole virus is not there, only a part of the virus, the spike protein, is given into the adenovirus. What adenovirus? It is not human adenovirus. It is chimpanzee adenovirus. Why we are using chimpanzee adenovirus for the vaccine? There is a question. Why not use adenovirus, human adenovirus? Sputnik has human adenovirus as the vector, the Sputnik vaccine. Sputnik V vaccine has the human adenovirus 5 and human adenovirus 26 as the vector. But Covishield, we are having the chimpanzee adenovirus. It was thought that human population out here in Asia will not have antibodies against the chimpanzee adenovirus. So when the vaccine is injected, the vaccine will not be neutralized by antibodies present against the chimpanzee adenovirus. So that is the reason. So there are a lot of questions. Is 2 dose required, 3 dose required, gaps? I'll come to those questions later on because those questions may come from you, audience, and I'll not go into the details now. So then the Covaxin. Covaxin is a inactivated vaccine developed by Bharat Biotech Limited and ICMR. It's a collaboration between ICMR and Bharat Biotech, and they have developed a very simple, just virus is cultured, purified, isolated, inactivated, and some adjuvant or immunomodulators are added, and then batches are made and given out. So this is a simple inactivated virus, but what is the efficacy? The efficacy of 2 doses is around 80%, and the efficacy of your Covishield is around 70%. Some studies says that it is up to 90%, but these studies, when they are done thoroughly, and we have analyzed those data, we have seen, in fact, the efficacy is far less than 60%, in fact, in some cases. Because what we are seeing now, we have done a study, but we have not published. It is still under peer review. From March to May, we in our lab had collected, I mean to say, reported 53,900 cases of COVID, not cases, we tested COVID cases, out of which 6,100 came positive for COVID, out of which around 1,500 were vaccinated. So what we see, those persons who are vaccinated 2 doses and 14 days after 2 doses, what was the positivity rate? The positivity rate was 11.8% in vaccinated, fully vaccinated. 14 days after full vaccination, the positivity rate was 11.8%. And what was the positivity rate among unvaccinated? It was 11.2%. So what we infer? We infer that the vaccine is not protecting against infection, but we cannot publish that now. If we publish that, people will stop taking the vaccine. People will stop taking the vaccine because these data are not isolated. Lot of institutes are detecting this data. These are not isolated things. USA, Israel, they are detecting in vaccinated people. We call it breakthrough infection. The circulating Delta virus is not being neutralized by the current vaccine. These vaccines are made from the 2019 strain, 2020 strain, circulating strain, not by the Delta strain. The Delta strain is not neutralized by this vaccine. But why the vaccine is required? Because it has been shown by various studies now that vaccine can decrease the severity of infection. Vaccine doesn't only act by antibody, vaccine also act by T-cell immunity. So by T-cell immunity, it can decrease the severity of infection. So what means that in airport, if you are vaccinated, should you be tested for COVID-19 or not? You should be tested for COVID-19. For in malls, if you show vaccine card, you are allowed. No, that is not the case. You have the equal chance of transmitting the virus if you are vaccinated or if you are not vaccinated. You have equal chance of transmitting. Only thing different is that the vaccinated people will have less severe disease than unvaccinated people. Okay. So there is also some data because when we say the IMA, the Indian Medical Association said that 748 doctors died due to COVID while treating in the first wave of COVID-19. 748 people lost their life fighting COVID-19, treating people, treating patients. But in the second wave, up to June, I'm not talking about July, August, up to June, when the vaccine was there from January onwards, because doctors got the vaccine first, 16th of January, 800 doctors died with the vaccine. In the first wave, 748. So what is the role of vaccine now? People may ask. So we'll come to that later on also during question and answer. So with that, I'm just wrapping up my presentation. So you can see our lab out here, the regional VRDL lab of ICMR, where we have done more than 3.5 lakhs RT-PCR tests, and we have also isolated the COVID-19 virus in our lab last year. And we were the first lab from Northeast India to isolate the virus. And in fact, only lab from Northeast India till now to isolate the virus. And we have been supporting day and night, 24 hours for COVID-19 for either diagnosis or for making pool testing, where we are contributing along with other institute of ICMR to save crores and crores of rupees, because while pooling or using VTM or normal saline or other, we are contributing to many other studies. So as a whole, the fight against COVID is not over. And I think so the session is open for any questions that may come up, and I'll try to answer it based on evidence and data that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Borgakoti. To sum up your talk, I will just say this was really awesome. Frankly speaking, this is my almost 5th or 6th lecture on COVID that I have been listening to via webinar, 5 of them already through my organization or for which I work. But this is something really different, and this was really what the common people want. And this is really an evidence, I would like to say, this evidence-based COVID interaction, COVID data. And also it is really, and I'm getting feedback. That's why I was looking into my mobile in messages. They're messaging me that this is really, and your talk has really, somebody was telling all my questions are getting answered one by one. So this is really great. Thank you very much. And we really hope that people are enjoying and they are getting enlightened. As a part of our process, actually, to make it more people more interactive or to get those things faster, we asked our audiences to give us some questions before. So what I will do is I will just go one by one, and some of them you have already replied. So I'll just go one by one, and you can just answer to those queries. So the first question is that will India need a third booster dose of COVID vaccine? And what is that? And not all fever is COVID. So how do we differentiate between flu, viral dengue, or say malarial fever? So how do you, when the people are getting fever, so temperature, high temperature and all inflammation, so how do we differentiate this? So two questions. One is, do we need a third COVID vaccine?
Thank you. That is a very good question. Do we need a third dose? Do we need a booster dose? So people are thinking that, okay, vaccine, as I have told you, vaccine just tries to mimic the natural immunity. If you have got a natural infection, it is far, far superior than a vaccine, first of all. You have to remember that. But why, even after infection, government is saying that you need to take vaccine. We are taking the vaccine that is acting as a booster already. If you are already infected, it is acting as a booster dose. Those who have got COVID, maybe some didn't know also. If they see their antibody, they will know that they were already infected with COVID. And if they get the vaccine, it will act as a booster for them. Now the third booster dose, yes. Why I'm saying yes? Because the current vaccine are not 100% efficient. No vaccine are 100% efficient. But for 100% means from protection from infection. When the vaccine doesn't protect from infection, new vaccine has to be developed. And these vaccines has to be changed to the current circulating strain. For influenza, what is done is that there is a monitoring of influenza called the FluNet across the world. And we are part of the FluNet, even our lab. And we submit those sequences from Assam to NIV Pune. And from Pune, they submit those sequences to CDC Atlanta, US. So for there, they get those sequences from all over the world. And they say that this is the current circulating strain and we need to make a vaccine based on that. And they make a vaccine based on the current circulating strain. So every 2 years, you will get a new influenza or flu vaccine. Okay. So for COVID-19, it was thought that maybe this virus, only a single that was developed in 2020 will suffice for 10-15 years. No, it will not. We will need maybe next year or this year only, we may need a new vaccine that is based on the Delta virus or mix of the virus, the Alpha, Delta, Gamma. So of the mixed vaccine, we may need a mixed vaccine so that, and here I'm telling you is that it is not very much difference. The virus has not changed that much, not even 0.5% from the original strain. Only thing a specific amino acid in the specific region we call receptor binding domain has changed. 2-3 amino acid has changed and that has caused SARS devastation. Hardly 1 or 2 amino acid change will cause devastation. So that is the peculiarity or the amazing fact of this coronavirus. So here the third dose is required, but we'll have to wait for the new vaccines to come. And the second question is that, do we need the symptoms, the clinical symptoms of COVID? The case definition of COVID is very simple. Any upper respiratory tract with fever. Now we have seen one symptoms that was not seen in other infection was anosmia. Anosmia means loss of smell. আমি গোন্ধ নোপোৱা হৈ যাওঁ 90% of these COVID patients are being detected based on our গোন্ধ নাই পোৱা আমি কিছুমানে কি হয় গোন্ধ নাপোৱাৰ পিছত গম পাই যে মোৰ কোভিড হ'ল গোন্ধ নাই পোৱা বা গোন্ধ বেলেগ ধৰণৰ গোন্ধ পাইছে পেৰসমিয়া হ'ব পাৰে we call it পেৰসমিয়া change of smell so change of smell or anosmia loss of smell is called anosmia but COVID is one of the things that it can infect lot and major organs of the body. The receptor that is present, it is called ACE2 or angiotensin converting enzyme 2. It is present in upper respiratory tract, lower respiratory tract, GI tract, kidney, heart. Lot of tissues has got this receptor. So people, it can cause also cardiomyopathy. That means heart problem is there. That is inflammation of the heart. So after what is happening is that there is called a symptom called post-COVID syndrome. A lot of people with COVID, after maybe 15 days, 20 days, 1 month, they are having fatigue, tiredness, and even depression. A lot of factors are there. They are getting a lot of different symptoms are there. So these symptoms together, there are more than 50 symptoms are there. They are together called as post-COVID syndrome. And in fact, you may know that after maybe 1.5 months, 1 month, people are dying suddenly with cardiac arrest. This has now been related to COVID. Why? Because of cardiomyopathy and coronary artery disease and all those things has been linked. Vascular disease has been linked to COVID-19 because a lot of these things like what we see is investigation when you do is one. If you had COVID, you will be given two diagnoses, two tests frequently. One is the CRP, C-reactive protein. Another is the D-dimer. That is frequently given by the physician. These are given. D-dimer is given to see if you have tendency to bleed inside your body. That means your hemolytic disturbance or your clotting disturbance has occurred, or antibody or inflammation against the platelet or the endothelial cell has happened and you will bleed into your internal organs or in your lungs. So that is the danger that clinicians like to see. And if this D-dimer is raised, they will try to give you anti-clotting drugs like enoxaparin and others are there. They will like to give you. And what is the role of steroid out here? So what I say is that you may observe a 103 years old person is not dying of COVID, but a 18 years or maybe 25 or 30 years person is dying of COVID. He was very immune. He goes to regular to gym and he was fit. Then why you say that immunity matters? Immunity, when he has so much immunity and he died due to COVID. And a person, fragile person of 103 years old, he didn't die of COVID. Why? The virus doesn't kill. It is the body that kills, the body's reaction, the hyper-inflammatory reaction that kills. If you have more immunity, hyperinflammation is there, the body will destroy itself. It will cause hyperinflammation, the pathology in the lung, the alveoli, fluid will be accumulated. You will no longer be able to take breath. The oxygen will not exchange between blood and the alveoli. There will be fluids in the alveoli. Why is the oxygen demand is so much in COVID-19? Because of this hyperinflammation. Hyperinflammation is the factor. And it is not due to low immunity, it is due to hyperimmunity, not low immunity. The person that has got hyperimmunity that are going to have this. There are a lot of other factors are there. So advertising that zinc will give you this immunity, that this will give you immunity, that will give you immunity. These are not based on sound evidence. Some company are propagating that this will give you immunity, you will be safe from COVID. These are not based on sound evidence data. Thank you.
So another next question, very interesting question regarding vaccines. So as you said, there are different vaccines developed on different platforms. There are DNA vaccine coming up, and then Pfizer and Moderna has come up their RNA platform, vaccine based on RNA. So generally, people who are who have this knowledge on DNA and RNA, there's a general query or confusion that, okay, if you inject a DNA based or directly an RNA based vaccine to our body, will it help, will it affect will it go and interact our body system and then have some, say, mutation, or will, or if we say, even my personal thing is that I was just wondering, will it, say, RNA vaccine, if you give, will it go and into an infant? Because Pfizer have already said it can go into a, say, pediatric type of vaccines. Will it, there is a possibility that go into the germplasm or get some mutation and then and affect the human body in the next generations to come, or will it go into their own self and then do a genetic mutation and have an impact on the person's body?
Okay, I'll say one thing. What is the most common natural vaccinator in the world? Who gives us vaccine, natural vaccinator in the world? It is the mosquito.
Mosquito, okay.
Okay, the mosquito gives us the most #1 vaccinator in the world. It gives us a lot of immunity, from Japanese encephalitis to dengue to other things. Okay, mosquitoes also transmit the disease, but 90-95% people don't get the disease. They get immunity from the bite. When the virus or the malaria or anything comes up, these are natural vaccinators, mosquito. So when we say we want to eradicate the mosquito, also we are eradicating one of the most natural immune means vaccinator in the world. You will say, when we get Japanese encephalitis, 1 out of 200 or 300 will have the encephalitis. Okay, the rest 95% cases are subclinical. 95. Few will have fever, but 95% cases are subclinical, just like in Japanese encephalitis. Even in COVID, 80 to 90% even are subclinical, and mild in another 5 to 10%. Altogether, 95% of COVID cases are mild or subclinical. So if you want to say case fatality is 1 to 2%, no. When we talk about case fatality and infection fatality, we call it IFR. The IFR is far less. You can imagine 90 crore people in India already infected. And if the case fatality rate was 1.4%, more than 1 crore people in India would have died by now. 1 crore. We have death of 4,40,000 deaths. But even suppose the government have suppressed data, 30 to 40% suppressed data is there, we can say the death has been 6 lakhs, but not 1 crore. If it was 1.4% fatality rate, 90 crore will have around 1 crore death, more than 1 crore death. So the infection fatality, that is the difference between case fatality rate and the infection fatality rate, that we call IFR. The IFR of COVID is around 1% dying out of 2,000 infected person. Out of 2,000 infected person, 1% will die of COVID-19. So real fatality rate is the IFR. But lot of subclinical cases are there, so we don't know. But the second part of your question, I have digressed actually a little bit about this IFR and all those things. The second part of your question was that about this vaccine, mRNA vaccine and the DNA vaccine, the plasmid-based vaccine. What is you have to know is the DNA vaccine. Suppose in E. coli, there is a bacteria or gut bacteria. Suppose we insert the spike protein genome out there as a plasmid out there. It will start producing that protein in our gut. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. And that will generate an immunity. That is a very easy thing to do while doing cloning work. Messenger RNA means mRNA is given in the vaccine, and that technology was there even for Ebola virus. They have made vaccine based on that. So that will just the genetic code, the mRNA code is there. The nucleic acid is injected into your muscle, and that will infect into your host cell, and it will utilize the host replication method and produce the protein, produce the spike protein. you can produce the spike protein by RNA, you can produce the spike protein by DNA. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can produce the spike protein from the DNA by using a plasmid, or you can produce the spike protein by using a messenger RNA. So that is the difference between these vaccines. So nothing else. In fact, if you want to reduce severity of the disease, an inactivated vaccine is far good enough than this vaccine. More than 200 years ago, Edward Jenner in 1795 developed the first vaccine without any complication. His lab was not sophisticated. He could develop a vaccine. So why we need so much time to develop a vaccine? The vaccine can be developed in any lab, in any sophisticated lab. It takes 1 month. But the race procedure, the animal study, the preclinical study, the clinical study, it takes years. So the main hurdle is the clinical trials, the preclinical trials, the animal trials. These are the hurdles in vaccine development, not the development of the technology.
Thank you. So somebody have asked that you have mentioned about the hyperimmunity is the cause of deterioration of the health in COVID patient. So is there a way to have a balanced immune state in the body? And moreover, what is a silent case? That is silent case, I think that is you are talking about asymptomatic cases. But yeah, but you are asking about hyperimmunity and how do we maintain a balanced immune state in the body?
Yes, that is another very interesting question. First of all, why some people develop serious disease and why some people develop no symptoms or mild symptoms. It varies from person to person. Some is saying that you have more ACE2 receptors, so you have more viral load and you are going to get a severe disease. But what we are looking is that even those having very high viral load are not having very severe symptoms. We have seen that it is not directly proportional to the viral load.
Actually, yeah, something has happened, I think.
Yeah, we lost the connectivity. I think.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, we need to ask him to join back.
Yeah. Join Koribo second song.
I have lost connection.
No problem, sir. You are back.
Am I audible now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. The internet connection has gone. I'm sorry about that, but I'm back now. So what we were talking was about inflammation. So some people are prone to diabetes. So is diabetes an inflammatory disease? First of all, that question will come to later on. Optimum immunity is what we need. What is optimum immunity? We do not want to have hyperimmunity. We do not want to have so less immunity. We need optimum immunity so that our body cells does not attack what it has to do. That means ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, is caused by a called cytokine storm. Maybe layman has also now heard about this cytokine storm. What is that cytokine storm? The cytokine storm is mediated through some mediators are there. I'll not go into the exact mechanism because it will be a detailed discussion on scientific part. But you have to know that lot of cells, immune cells, T cell mediated cytotoxic T cells, macrophages gets accumulated into your lungs and other organs, and they secrete these cytokines. And then again, they wanted to destroy a small virus, but they are destroying everything. Destroying your lung, they are engulfing it with macrophages, they are engulfing it with fluid. Chemotactic factors are there, fluid is being drawn from your capillaries into the alveoli. So what is happening in ARDS? Oxygen intake, 100% oxygen you have to give in, because accents between your alveoli and your arterioles are being compromised drastically. So out here, why some person develop this ARDS and why some person escape? Why 95% people means escape this severe disease? That is one question we have to look. Not everyone's immunity is same. One factor is called HLA factor. HLA may have a role. There are a lot of diseases where you are prone some HLA specific disease, like your ankylosing spondylitis or rheumatic arthritis or other where HLA B27. These people with this HLA type are more susceptible to your hyperinflammation or this your anti-inflammatory or I mean to say these connective tissue disorders or inflammatory disorders are there. So in COVID also, we need to see and find out the factors essential. If we need to predict who are the person that are going to go for severity. So there are some predictions being developed based on some blood markers. Like if your neutrophil count is very high, above 90%, and your D-dimer is high, your LDS is high, you are going to go for severe COVID. Physicians comes to know that you are going to go for severe COVID and you are given steroids and you are given oxygen and you are asked to get hospitalized. So some markers are there still, but we are not being able to identify in normal case. Normal, if you are not infected. Today I wanted to see, please draw a blood and tell me if I am going to have severe COVID or mild COVID or asymptomatic COVID. That test has not been developed. That test has not been developed. And scientists around the world are trying to develop this type of test where one test will tell you that if you are going to have severe COVID or mild COVID.
So yeah, one question came up in Facebook Live. So from Ritu Fukan, he was asking, since you said you have sequenced the genome of COVID, so he was asking about the source. That did you take the genome directly from COVID patients or you have taken from some other source?
So what we do when when the samples comes to us, these are nasopharyngeal samples. We have isolated the virus in cell line called Veros CCL81 cell line also. It is grown out there. In a tissue culture lab, we have a BSL-free facility. For growing COVID, you need to have a facility called biosafety level 3, or else you are not being given permission to grow the virus. So those labs that has got the BSL-free lab facility can grow this virus, in fact. So there are very few labs in the country that has got the BSL-free lab. Our lab is one that we have a BSL-free lab out here, so we can grow the virus. But for doing a whole genome sequencing, you do not need to culture the virus. You can directly go from the sample. You can convert it to cDNA. That means RNA is converted to DNA by a process called complementary DNA. From the cDNA, there are some process. We will not go into detail. There are different platforms called NGS, next generation sequencing platforms are there. And then there are platforms called capillary sequencing where parts of the genomes can be sequenced at a time. So with that basis, we are able to sequence the genome and we know what strain is circulating in Assam. Suppose Delta is circulating in Assam, or which sublineage is circulating in Assam. AY12 was the most common sublineage of Delta that is circulating in Assam right now. So the second wave was completely due to the Delta. 95% of the strains that has been sequenced is due to the Delta variant of COVID-19 in Assam from April. So even, in fact, in India also, it was due to the Delta variant. The second wave was due to the Delta variant of COVID-19. So the sequencing does not need virus culture. We can go directly from the sample, only human sample. We are not going to take from animal samples. The human samples that are coming, and these are anonymous samples. We do not give names or persons. We just give the age and date of collection or the gender, age or sex. That means that person cannot be identified. Whose sequence it was there. The location may be there. It was from Dibrugarh only. That location will be there, but apart from that, the person will not be able to be identified who was the person with this strain.
So yeah, there are two more questions. So one is regarding the dosing of vaccines. So 2% they have similar queries. So whatever is that, what is the longevity of COVID-19 antibodies developed by the vaccine, and does one with some autoimmune disease can take COVID vaccine? And second one is, yeah, and second one is that if we take a second dose of vaccine shorter than recommended, say for 80, instead of 84 days, we take around after 30 days. So what would be the impact on this?
First of all, Government of India devised a policy, first of all. January 16, they initiated the vaccination first. The Covishield, they made a thing that it will be given 28 days after the first dose. The second dose will be given 28 days after the first dose. Covishield. And for Covaxin also, it was same. But suddenly the government decided 3 months gap for the Covishield. Why? Some people thought there were no vaccine available. There was shortage of vaccine. So that was the reason why government decided, okay, we will lengthen the duration, then we will get some time to acquire this vaccine. But actually it is partly correct, partly wrong. Partly correct means where there were some scarcity was there, that is correct. But when these clinical trials came up, the Serum Institute data came up with Covishield. They showed that after 12 weeks, the antibody titer, if these vaccines are given at 12 weeks, the antibody titer is 4 times more if it is given at 4 weeks. 4 weeks means 28 days. So if it is given at 28 days, that means 1 month, the antibody titer that will come up later on is 4 times less than those that are given at 3 months. So if you want to have a very pronounced antibody response, then the gap is required. That was based for Covishield vaccine. So then again, people will ask, why then the government, if the data was available in January, why then the government decided to give at 28 days? So there was also one thing that government wanted to develop some sort of immunity as early as possible. Because government wanted to give the vaccine first to the frontline, to the healthcare workers and the frontline workers. Okay. So the frontline workers and the healthcare workers was getting the direct impact of the pandemic. So if at a faster rate, they could have been vaccinated, then this whole doctors, and they will be immune, and they thought they will treat the patient well. Sometimes it is very sad to say that lot of patients didn't get proper treatment. I'm myself a clinician. I have been a clinician for over 4 or 5 years before joining research. I'm aware of what was happening in some hospitals and how COVID patients were treated. They didn't get oxygen after 12 to 18 hours after getting admitted. So people, this nurse, that ward boys got very afraid of that, afraid of COVID-19, that the panic that was having, it was immense, and the media was also responsible. The social media was also responsible. I still remember in February 2020, a person had come from Singapore, from Malaysia, and we went to Assam Medical College. That people thought he was already positive, and everyone ran. People jumped from the wall. that a COVID patient has come. We took the sample, it was COVID negative, but it was coronavirus positive. Actually, it was positive for human coronavirus OC43. But we did not report it because when you report that human coronavirus OC43, it will be reported by media as COVID only. The name coronavirus is there, coronavirus positive. So we thought better not report the case because it is SARS-CoV negative. So the panicky situation was there. So a lot of patients died. Those patients should not have died. A lot of patients all over India died of some, I mean to say, we cannot blame anybody. A lot of doctors and nurses have worked day and night. There are doctors that have worked day and night. But there were a situation where people has died very miserably without receiving proper treatment. So this has to be looked upon that what as doctors or as healthcare workers could have done better.
So one question came up is that since we are having this is mutated virus and mutation is creating more infection as in Delta strain. So can we create a pathogenic strain which will be low infectious and that becomes a more dominating and dominates over the more infectious strain? So can we create a low infectious strain as such of the virus? Is it possible?
First of all, co-infection may be common. Maybe when it is said by scientists, it is called a rare event, co-infection, because when one strain is circulating, it is the dominant strain that is circulating. But when one strain is replaced by another strain, there is an overlap. There is an overlap. So in Assam, what in April, in May, March, April, what was happening? January, March, we had Alpha strain circulating. That is the UK variant was circulating in Assam. Suddenly, the Delta came in prominence, but Delta has been detected in January also from Karimganj and other areas. One case has been detected retrospectively now, but what the cases came was more cases came in April. So there was an overlap between Alpha and the Delta. So what in that period of time, you may get a co-infection between these two strains. And in fact, in our lab only, we got a co-infection case that was reported for the first time in India from our lab out here. So that a co-infection of an Alpha and a Delta virus occurred in a clinician. So it is not that you will not be able, because this happens during this transition period. Because these virus both are 99.5% similar, you cannot distinguish by normal method. By normal method, you will not be able to distinguish. It requires special methods to distinguish if it is both the strains are circulating. That is why a lot of labs will miss co-infection of your COVID. And the next question is that, will co-infection cause more severity? No. Co-infection will not cause more severity because it is the same virus. The one virus that transmit more, suppose Delta is more transmissibility or more virulent, that will take a upper hand. It will act as the Delta variant. It will, if the person is infected by both, after some time, the Delta variant will predominate in his circulation and he will respond as a Delta variant only. That means Delta variant infection only. It is not that, because as I have told you, 99.8% Alpha and Delta variant are similar. Only few amino acids. Generally, when in terms of mutation, there are around 40 mutations are there from the reference strain for the Delta and the Alpha. So the distance we call actually in phylogenetic distance is there. So there is around some around 8 means non-synonymous and synonymous mutations are there in the spike protein. So important mutations are there. So that can cause your change in the amino acids. And these around 8 amino acids has been changed from the reference strain in the Delta variant. And that is causing your severe, I mean to say, some more virulence also. Some studies from Canada has shown that Delta is causing more virulence, around more than 130% more virulent than the strain that was circulating in 2020.
So there are two, I will just club both the queries. So one is COVID-19 or as such a virus is subject to climatic conditions also. That means, does it spread more in moderate climate than those in the extreme climate? So is there a climatic factor in spreading of the virus? And secondly, is that I think I asked that, but this is of slightly important. I think you missed that. Can a person with autoimmune disease take the virus, take the vaccine?
Okay. The first part of your question is the season involved in, or the weather involved in transmission of this virus. So a lot of viruses are seasonal. Just like winter diarrhea, like rotavirus, we call it winter diarrhea in some areas. Influenza in some countries are actually happening in winter. But in our region, we do not have. In India, influenza outbreaks do occur in rainy season. Not in other, like other countries, they have more cases in January, December, January, more cases of influenza. But in India, we do have, in fact, now we are having an influenza outbreak along with COVID. We are getting a lot of cases of influenza A and B right now at present, it is going on. People are saying that these are COVID negative, again, they are getting respiratory infection and then COVID negative. What is this? These are cases of influenza that is happening now. So what I'm telling is that, is COVID-19 seasonal? By looking at the data, people will say that it peaked in earlier also in May, June like that, and peak in September, and then gone down in winter. So in India, it should be in this summer and this autumn months that the virus should peak, but that data is very few. But when it initially started, it started in December in China. So the virus can transmit in cold condition. One more thing is that why we look at the virus if it can transmit in summer or winter. The temperature always plays a role. In dengue or other things, it is a different. There is a factor. There is a factor. The mosquito is the factor. The Aedes aegypti mosquito is the factor. They replicate in the summer months. So the dengue virus, the extrinsic incubation period is, it goes from 15 days to 7 days. So the transmission cycle is high during summertime. So dengue occurs in summer. So it is not the case because we do not have a vector for this coronavirus, but the coronavirus survives in cold for more time. Suppose the temperature is less than 10 degrees, the virus can survive up to 2 days. In inanimate object, if the temperature is more than 35, the virus can last only 6 to 8 hours. So by that condition, one can say that winter we should have more COVID, then summer the COVID should come down. But what that theoretical data is not matching with the practical what we are seeing. So there are other lot of factors, environmental factors like dust particle in the air. All those factors will help. Suppose in carrying the virus in dust particle, all those things or matter that because of rain or those rain particles or their moisture in particles that may also help the virus to stay. So there are a lot of factors, but as a whole, when we see, there is no difference. There is no difference. There is no difference in that it may happen in any season. It may happen in winter season, it may happen in summer season also.
Thank you, because this question was very relevant for people from Pune specifically. They have suffered a major outbreak in swine flu, and now COVID, it has become a hotbed. So, and people were thinking that is it because of the climatic situation of Pune that the temperature gradient during daytime and nighttime is almost around 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. So, at the peak time. So, thank you for answering that. And finally, yes, as everybody, all of us are eagerly waiting for the pandemic to end. And so there are queries that when will coronavirus end, or will it stay with us like cancer and we have to bear with it? And if we have to bear with it, how to bear with it? So people are actually anxiously waiting, although some non-scientific stuff, people like Bill Gates and all business guys are predicting it to end around end of 2022. So what is the final outcome towards the end of COVID-19?
I'll say one thing. We are living with lot of infectious disease right now. Okay. Influenza A causes 250,000 deaths per year in the world. We are not aware, most of our people are not aware that influenza A causes around 250,000 deaths a year. We are living with it. We are living with influenza. We are living with Klebsiella pneumoniae. We are living with RSV, the respiratory syncytial virus that causes the most number of deaths in pediatric under 5. We are not aware. We are not aware of a lot of things that are happening. Yes, COVID has given us awareness about a lot of things. COVID has given us awareness about a lot of health practice that we need to follow. And it is both a good way and a bad way, the pandemic. If we have to live with this pandemic, the pandemic will be over. All pandemic are over. Cholera pandemic was there, it was over. Spanish flu was there, it was over. But it doesn't mean that the virus has gone, disappeared. It is still remaining. Spanish flu was caused by H1N1 influenza A virus. It is still there, not as the same virus, but it is a similar virus, almost similar virus. Influenza A, H1N1, now we call the swine flu virus. Okay. As a whole, the virus remains. Suppose coronavirus, nobody was aware that there were 4 coronavirus, common cold coronavirus. We detect it daily in our lab. We were detecting it from 2015 onwards, coronavirus. So we are not concerned because they did not cause serious or severity like this coronavirus, this SARS-CoV-2. So over the time, what will happen is that people will get more immune, and it is likely that the disease will be less severe. That is the norm. That is the norm for other disease also. When you have a less severe disease, okay, sporadic cases will get admitted, some cases will get serious cases, they will need, but one thing will be there, they will get better treatment than now, because the panic situation of the people, the healthcare workers should go, only then we can treat the patient properly. 50% of the people in this, out of the 45 lakhs people dying, I can say 20 lakh would have been saved by timely treatment. And there are also collateral damage. Sometimes if you are not treated, if you are not doing a COVID test, you are not operated if you have not a negative COVID report. If you are having a hemoptysis and you are bleeding, doctor will not ask, first COVID test has to be done, the report will come after 8 hours. No treatment is given to the patient and the patient dies. So there are a lot of collateral damage with this COVID-19, and it is extremely painful that as clinicians and as we are not being able to help. As I have told you before, there are exemplary examples where doctors have worked 18 hours a day continuously to save people. But there are also examples where we have neglected the patient. So with this, I think so I have given you some overview of this COVID-19, and if there is any other questions, I'll be glad. 1 or 2 questions if still remaining to be answered. I saw some gain of function somebody has regarding.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Yes,
Yeah.
through gain of function, is it possible to create a high transmissible R0 and low pathogenicity strain so that it becomes a dominating one?
Yeah, that's what I asked. Yeah. So co-infection that you have said. Yeah, that's it.
First of all, if the virus became highly transmissible, yes, we can make with gain of function research, the virus can be made highly transmissible. And that is what the Wuhan lab and the North Carolina lab did. They made the virus that was not transmissible to human. The bad virus is not transmissible to the human. It was not transmissible. The RADZ13 strain was not transmissible. The Yunnan strain that was detected in 2013 from bat, that is the closest coronavirus. It is not transmissible. But somehow they in their lab made it transmissible to human airway epithelial cell line. So they in a way made it possible to infect multiple orthologs of ACE2 receptor. What do we mean by multiple orthologs? That means multiple animals can be infected, not only humans. minks, lions, chimpanzees, anything can be infected with this virus. So in the lab, they have produced this virus. I'm not saying the SARS-CoV-2, but the chimeric virus they have produced, because till now we have no proof, because China is not giving us the data to analyze. They have not given to the public domain what was the chimeric virus data. They have not given. Nobody has given this data to be analyzed. So that when this data is not analyzed, if the sequence, how they are matching, which amino acids are matching or not, so it will be difficult to directly implicate the lab. But there are indirect evidence, what we in legal system call circumstantial evidence are there that this virus has come from the lab, either deliberately or by accident. Circumstantial evidence.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And this was really enlightening. And we have actually, everybody is happy, and I'm getting messages that thanks for your excellent reply and queries. And I sincerely hope that we won't get a third wave as like of the Delta, because the main, I hope that main mutation that have already taken place, the glutamic acid mutation with the ACE receptor. I was taking some personal interest in some point of time during the first wave, and was doing some simulation work, and I found that those two, I didn't know that time that this was the, but yes, when second wave came, Delta came, and they said that, okay, this is the particular mutation that happened with. So I hope, we sincerely pray that COVID calms down and we get back to our normal routine. And so I now request at the end our Secretary Rajiv to give a formal vote of thanks. Yes.
Sure. Thank you. 2 hours of fact-based information. That was a lot. And also we know how busy you are, Mr. Dr. Sir. So it's really a privilege for us to have you for 2 hours and, sharing all the information. And the best part was, right before kind of, arranging this session, we were actually discussing, Amaranda, me, Sid sir, Priyanka, and all that. There's so much of session going on COVID itself. We wanted to be very particular about what kind of information we want to give to our audience. And we thought that it will be really good to have some fact-based information. At the same time, we should also identify a person who is able to kind of, relay or transmit that information in a very lucid way. I guess we couldn't have been lucky with another person. And thank you, Samiranda, for getting you onboarded with us, Dr. Borgakoti sir. We are extremely privileged for all the information that you shared, and the way you have shared and enlightened us. I guess it will stay with us forever. And a lot of misconception, misinformation about COVID-19 also has been decimated, thanks to you. And we also thank all the enlightened audience who asked very pertinent questions related to the topic. So overall, I feel it was a very good session. We'll be definitely looking forward to meeting you next, and also hosting you if ever you plan to come to Pune. Ahomi Pune will be very privileged to welcome you at everyone's home. So thank you so much. Namaskar. Bor bhal lagil. Dhanyabad. And thank you to all the audience as well. So we'll definitely get in touch again.
Just to add, I missed that. So since Borgakoti is working on virus and virology, and also he might be visiting NIV sometime. So if you do come, then yeah.
Looking forward, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely log pam in person also. Hi. ঠিক আছে স্যার, আজিলে এৰিলো তেনেহলে। শুভ সন্ধ্যা সকলোকে। Good night. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.